Good morning to the honorable ministers of the council, members of the media, online viewers, radio listeners via St. Martin Gov Radio 1079 FM and respective radio stations island-wide. I'm Charity Dunker and welcome to the live Council of Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, February 15, 2023. At this time, I'd like to welcome and invite the Honorable Minister of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, Dr. Anders Rudolph Samuel, to address you. Good morning, Minister.
Good morning, Ms. Dunker, and good morning to your colleagues from CoM. Good morning to the media. Good morning to the people of St. Martin, and most naturally, good morning to my colleague who's here with us this morning. I would like to give a few brief updates regarding a couple of topics, and I would like to update that I am pleased to announce which you probably would have read in the newspaper, the signing of the contract with the construction company or the company that would repair the Martin Luther King School roof. We all know that this project is a much needed project, and I have indicated on various occasions that I personally felt that the process was taking long. But I am pleased that we have reached to this point where we have signed with the company that won the bid and that the repairs of the school can take place. In regards to the topic of the National Summer School Program payment for the teachers, which is also a situation that is ongoing, I have also indicated that I will bring the information just like it is to the public as I get it. And at this moment, I will inform that I have received the LBAs back and with a request for additional information. So we are working on that. That means that the payment cannot happen as yet. Then I would like to give an update to the project concept of 1 cent per liter gasoline. And I know that the media, one of the media have asked me for an update on this. I can inform at the moment that during the period that I was able to collect on this project, when we reduced the excise, we were able to collect around 110,000 guilders. And to continue receiving the 1 cent per liter gasoline, as I had indicated, is that a law have to be in place for that to continue. Now, that process is ongoing, and when the law is in place, making it legal for us to collect the 1 cent per liter, then it can continue again. And then I would like to give an update regarding NEPA. At this moment, I would like to indicate that my research in the matter of NEPA is still ongoing, and I also have a request for a meeting from NEPA. I do not want to go into the topic before I have my information that I am awaiting at hand. So I would like to leave this topic for what it is at the moment. Thank you. These have been my opening remarks. As I indicated, I would only have some brief updates. I thank you. And I'm here for any question.
Okay. Thank you once again, Honorable Minister Dr. Anders Rudolph Samuel, for your opening remarks. At this time, the other ministers are not present. However, should they join us, we'll be sure to also award them the opportunity to go ahead with any further opening remarks. If you've just joined us, you're watching the live Council Ministers press briefing for today, Wednesday, February 15, 2023. I would like to also announce that the Honorable Minister of Justice, Anna Richardson, is present. However, she'll be not making any opening remarks, but is present for any questions that the media may have. Ms. Bibi Hardshaw of SMN News, you have the floor. Good morning.
Thank you, Charity. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, ministers. My first question, Minister of Justice. Minister, Can you give us an update on the situation at the prison? Has there been solutions? Just last week, there was a lockdown of the prisoners, and I'm sure you're aware of all the information that is out. Besides that, Minister, recently UNOPS was on the island. Can you tell us about the prison expansion project and what contribution is coming from the government of St. Martin for this project?
Yes, thank you very much, Ms. Shaw. Good morning to all the viewing public, to my colleagues, the media, and a special good morning as well to the senior citizens. Yes, Ms. Shaw. So yes, we have been experiencing some, how should I term it? The Inmates Association has been standing on some requests that they have. Despite being able to provide them with information, they're not necessarily satisfied with it. And it really does have to come down with persons who feel like it is time for them to be placed on early release. Of course, those dates are calculated based on one's verdict and time served. So in discussions between my staff and the Inmates Association, as a matter of fact, I do believe that today there is another leg of discussion that is going to be underway with legal persons who are now presenting themselves as the representatives for the Inmates Association. We'll be meeting with my staff, Judicial Affairs, and some other review bodies to be able to discuss what the position of the Inmate Association is, and I won't use the word per se demands, but requests that they have, and just being able to dialogue about it to come to a consensus. Yes, in the event that it becomes a situation where there is no cooperation and a lockdown is necessary, then the prison director will make that call and do whatever it is him and his management team feel is necessary to be able to restore order at the facility. And it is very important for us to keep in mind that this is a detention facility. It does mean that it has persons in there that, security is necessary with. And so whatever measures they feel is necessary at the time, they're going to take that. With regards to UNOPS, UNOPS will be returning to St. Martin this month, here in February. As a matter of fact, I think within this week, they should be on the ground again. And the necessary agreement with UNOPS has been signed. This is the first phase that we will be launching into, where the vision comes into play. So discussions about what type of facility we want to have. And based on the type of clients that we have at our facility now, who we need to cater to. Having, let's say, an infirmary, because of course I've mentioned this even in Parliament, that our detention facility being built some 30 years ago was intended to be a holding facility or a detention and not a prison in itself. So it doesn't have certain facilities that it should. Nevertheless, those are the discussions that will be held with UNOPS. And the vision being developed with all sorts of stakeholders here on St. Martin. And I'm really, really grateful that we've made it this far and that it is rolling in a positive direction. And finally, your question about the contribution of St. Martin. So the first contribution comes actually from the Netherlands. The estimated amount that the Netherlands has already put aside for this project is some 30 million euros. 20 million goes into the construction, 10 million goes into a 5-year disbursement for the operation end of the matter. But part of this phase one of UNOPS as well is being able to identify what the total cost will be to construct. Any difference in that 30 million that I just indicated will be at the cost of St. Martin. So we are all enthusiastically waiting for us to be advised what this total sum would be. But the priority of getting this facility, there's a sub facility that has to be built as well. We worked with the Ministry of Vrummy to have that drawn up some 2 years ago. So that will be coming to the forefront for us to be able to see if this can indeed be the facility that will be built as the sub, where all of the population will be moved to. The existing property will be demolished in order for the new one to be built, and then the inmate population will move back. And then that facility that we will be building as the sub, we would look at it to see if it would be a better and a suitable placement for, let's say, juveniles. We need a facility for both boys and girls, because we see that the behavior in our youth is something that is leading in a direction that we would like to curb. We would like to be able to deter behavior that lands persons into detention facility or into prison. And we want to be able to come up with programs. And it's not just the government that has to do that, but we do have a lot of programs external that are trying their best. Funding is always a challenge, but we would like to see more community involvement in being able to deter our youth from going down the wrong path. I think I'm going to close off here now because I feel like I'm talking a lot. I hope I answered your questions.
Yes, but can you just tell us if the sub-location has been identified?
So the location where it could be constructed?
No. Where are you going to house the
So that's what I was
population?
just explaining to you. 2 years ago, we had drawings done by Vromi that there's a parcel of land that is adjacent to the facility now, to Harvey Bay, where we are with UNOPS going to see if that is a suitable location to have it constructed. So it has to be built. And then we would move the population into that one. When the new prison itself is constructed, they will move back into that new facility, and that sub-facility that we would have built to put them in temporary should be used for possibly our youth or any type of special care that we would have with inmates, etc. Yeah, good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Honorable Minister of Justice Anna Richardson, and also thank you, Bibi, for your question. Moving on to Mr. Lyndon Brown of BCN TV. You have the floor. Good morning, Lyndon.
Good morning to the people of St. Martin and the ministers that are present here today. Question to the Minister of Justice. Minister of Justice, it's all on the way of rebuilding the prison. Minister, and most of the prisoners are young male here from St. Martin, and according to the report, there is 136 person waiting to be in prison. There is no space for them right now. But Minister, the emphasis is, what is the Minister of Justice is doing to deter the young girls and boys from being incarcerated? What are the programs to stop them, to distract them from doing wrong things?
Thank you, Mr. Brown. In actuality, that is not a responsibility initially of the Minister of Justice, and let me explain why. The Ministry of Justice is the tail end of activities. So we have so many different pillars of contribution into our youth that need to be able to facilitate proper upbringing, proper socialization, proper communication, development that takes place way before they will ever come into contact with the Ministry of Justice. But what we would like to do is work with those entities, be it schools, churches, parents, etc., to be able to identify what our youth are experiencing, what are the influences, and how we can be a supportive factor in that deterrent.
Thank you, Minister of Justice, and thank you, Lyndon. Ms. Judy Fitzpatrick, please, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Charity, and a very good morning to ministers and my colleagues. I first have a clarification for Minister Samuel based on the 1 cent per gasoline comment you made earlier. You indicated that the law to collect the funds still needs to be worked on and so forth. So on what grounds is this 110,000 guilders collected since the law is not there? And will those funds still be used for sports? And my question, Minister Samuel, has to do with the whole issue of education and compulsory education. Compulsory education in St. Martin starts at the age of 4. However, at the moment, there is no sort of official public accommodation for students between the ages of 4 to 7, 8 who have special needs, because the Prince William Alexander School for Special Education only accepts students from the age of 7 or 8, I believe, and they have to be potty trained. Yes, you are working on a compulsory education policy, but what mechanisms are in place for kids at the moment to ensure that they don't fall through the cracks? It's a very serious situation because a lot of these kids are scattered in public schools. We see the kids who were at the school that just closed, they're now in a play school setting, and they are really falling through the cracks. So that is my question, Minister. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the question. In regards to the 1 cent per liter, if you recall, a temporary measure was put in place in order to reduce the cost of the gasoline to the public. So from that reduction, 1 cent was put aside for 1 cent per liter was put aside for the allocation to be used for sports. That is the measure, and within that bracket, within that frame, that 1 cent was collected. In order to continue, we would have to put a stationary regulation in place. And yes, it will be used, the money that is collected will be used for sports. Then in regards to compulsory education and the statement that you make, that is correct, but there is a but. And it is so that we try to leave all children start regular school, to see if they are late developers. And that is why you might see that students are given the opportunity to start in regular schools at the age of 4. And when it is noticed that the child have a special needs, depending on the type of special needs, then that child will be assessed. And when I say assessed, that we need to do the necessary assessment of the situation, and then a decision would be made if the child goes into special education school. So no, they are not dropping through the cracks.
Thank you, Minister of ECYS, Dr. Andrew Samuel, and also thank you, Judy Fitzpatrick, for your question. At this time, I'd also like to acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Prime Minister, Sylvia Jacobs. She has the opening remarks, which she'll be making after the round of questions. So members of the media, you will be allotted the opportunity to pose your questions to the Prime Minister thereafter. Proceeding now with the gentleman from PJD2, none other than Mr. Stephen Cyrillian. Good morning, Stephen.
Thank you, Ms. Dunker. Prime Minister, good morning. Ministers, good morning to you as well. My question is for the Minister of Justice. The deadline for payment of her road tax is set for February 20th. Following that deadline, Minister, can you say as to how soon thereafter will the control of vehicles started?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Cyrillian. At this time, I'm not aware as to what preparations CARPSM has made, but I will have that discussion with them, and I can have you a subsequent answer.
Thank you, Minister of Justice, and thank you, Samuel. Ms. Bibi Hartshaw of SMN News, you have the floor.
Thank you, Charity. Minister of Justice, can you tell us what was the response from the employers with the grace period given to regulate the undocumented employees that they have been working and residing on the island?
Thank you for the question, Ms. Shaw. So the response of the employers per se, I don't have. But what I can say is that the volume of individuals who have requested the exemption to be able to remain on the island within the allotted weeks in connection with the pilot project has been quite continuous. It has been quite a few that have requested that. And so I am happy about the fact that they are seeking with the cooperation of the employers. Now, if the employers are following through to put forward the applications, is something that I would have to seek an update from the pilot team to be able to know where we are with that. Yeah.
Thank you, Minister of Justice. Thank you, Bibi. Mr. Lyndon Brown of BCN TV, you have the floor.
Question to the Justice Minister. Minister of Justice, this was a year ago, a year and a half, we can say. Mr. Thomas have died in the hands of law enforcement officers. And now again, there's another person. Minister, do you care about the stigma? It is so negative, Minister. And today, it's supposed to be a autopsy of the Dominica National, and finally, the public will know what he died from. about the stigma, do you concern, Minister? Can you elaborate?
Every life matters, Mr. Brown. So, of course, it is concerning when persons in custody will be, show up deceased. When it comes to Mr. Thomas, it is important to know that the prosecutor's office has been in contact with the family. And it is the family's decision if they wish to publicize what the outcome of that is, because it is personal. Same thing with the autopsy that's going to happen now. Of course, the family would have to give us permission to be able to disclose what transpired. So whilst I am, and no one in this particular situation is interested or seeking for person to pass on in that capacity, it does happen, and it has happened. Am I concerned about it? Absolutely.
If a crime committed, what will be the step?
The prosecutor's office will be the one to take that on.
Thank you, Minister of Justice, and thank you, Lyndon. Ms. Judy Fitzpatrick of the Daily Herald, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. I just have a follow-up question for Minister Samuel, and then I will pose my question. In relation to your answer on the fact that students between the ages of 4 to 7, they're given a chance to go into the regular education system, and if any challenges are observed, they're assessed. I have received a number of complaints, and I have witnessed quite a number of challenges that educators who are dealing with children within that age group are facing. So they have kids in the class who have challenges, and there is no teacher's assistant. So for example, public schools are assigned 1 or 2 assistants that they have to share with the entire school. So sometimes you would have a class that has an assistant just for once or twice a week. And then you have teachers who have sometimes 5, 6 students in their class with special needs. And so the teachers, they're really stressed, overburdened, because they can't handle teaching the students and then dealing with these children who have challenges because they run around and they're not adhering. So is this something that you are aware of and something that can be addressed? Because this, like I said, it's something that I've witnessed personally, the frustration of teachers. And my question is to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, we are inching closer and closer to the next election. And I know the whole issue of electoral reform has been something that has been discussed since the last election and even prior to that. Can we expect any concrete changes to go into effect prior to the election? And the Party for Progress, they had made a suggestion, which I see you've warmed up to remove the the curtains from the voting booths. Is this also something that is being considered to be implemented? Thank you so much.
All right. Before I allow the Prime Minister to answer the 2 questions that you asked, I also mentioned that I was going to allow the Prime Minister to have her opening remarks, and then we proceed with the questions. But since you jumped that, we'll go ahead. Prime Minister, you're ready to answer? Okay. Mr. Samuel, please.
Thank you, Judy, for the question asked. We at the ministry, because we care about the situation regarding special needs, have started the development of a policy. And I have mentioned this before, that the policy development is on its way. In order to complete the policy, one of the things that we did was a situational analysis of St. Martin. The analysis was to check in St. Martin whether it's in private settings, or so whether private schools, subsidized schools, or private settings, how many and what types of special needs we have. That policy document, the research, the assessment document, is now completed, and together with the situational analysis, we are going to complete the policy for special needs education. The policy for special needs education will indicate indeed things like how many special needs students are in a classroom, how many teachers, what type of teachers, what type of, let's say, assistants to the teachers, the whole setting in regards to special needs will be laid down for the first time, completed in a policy. Now, we are at that stage. One of the things that I have done since becoming Minister of Education is to put in every school a remedial teacher. Now, previously, I'm talking about public schools. So when I came, there were 1 or 2 remedial teachers for the whole school, and now there is 1 remedial teacher per school, and I'm talking for primary school. We are moving on with that. If we need more, the situation will indicate such, and if there are need for classroom teachers, the situation will also indicate this, and then we can hire in more persons in order to assist with these situations. So yes, it has my attention. Yes, we are busy with it, and we do hope to be able to contribute to this special group of persons in our community. Thank you.
PM?
Thank you very much, Charity. Good morning to you. Good morning to my colleagues. Good morning to the members of the media. Good morning to the people of St. Martin tuned in to our press briefing today. I would like to just mention that despite the many challenges we're facing, apologies first of all for my tardy appearance, but I was held back with some crisis management that had to take place to ensure timely responses were sent out for certain queries that had been put forth and to ensure the smooth running. So my apologies for that. But despite whatever we may be going through individually as a community or even within the world, I want to say we need to continue to move forward from a space of gratitude and grace and see things from a perspective of we can instead of being despondent about what may or may not be going on. So I wish all of those who are facing the challenges with loss of loved ones, I do have several persons that I can name, but you know who you are. Our prayers as a country and also as Prime Minister Jacobs and my family extended to you with the loss of your loved ones. Continue to be strong and faithful. The government of St. Martin, together partnering General Affairs with the Ministry of ECYS Sports Department, has started the Work Vitality Program. I'd like to continue to encourage our civil servants who took part last week to continue to take part in this program, which is crucial to promote vitality within the workplace, and we as government are taking the necessary steps to promote it. So you have now the chance to participate in yoga sessions, physical fitness, and other sport activities. These are all funded by government to enhance your wellness and the vitality that you have here. Also, as a means of dealing with the needs of our employees, the exit survey and satisfaction survey is wrapping up. The satisfaction survey will have only 2 more days. For the information to be validly used, you have to have a level of participation. So I encourage all civil servants who have not yet filled that out within the next 2 days to do so that we can take along the suggestions, the concerns in the planning moving forward. Your opinion and valuable input is needed. And I want to extend also that I have been hearing that from the Ministry of TEA, the responses to the census has also been lagging behind. Now, as a community, we can continue to complain about what needs to change. But with government, policy and legislation requires data. And without the necessary data, decisions cannot be made. As a matter of fact, in our recent discussions with the unions last week, the talk about the cost of living came up, yes, and that report can only be made, that assessment can only be made once we have that statistics, the statistics that are being compiled from the census. We expect that to be finalized by May or June, after which the SED will be asked once again to carry out the cost of living assessment. With that, we can then take the necessary steps to improve on the services based on data, which we provide to the community. So again, each of us have a role to play. Besides giving your vote on election day, taking part in censuses and surveys are ways in which you constantly get the community involved and this is how you continue to have your say. So do be encouraged to do so. As mentioned last week, if you were following the parliamentary sessions, excuse me, the Committee for Slavery Atonement and Reparations has been finalized. There is one small adjustment that needs to be made, so that will be finalized in tomorrow's Council of Ministers meeting. But thus far, 8 members have been appointed, and the last to be finalized tomorrow. Those members are Marcelia Henry, Mrs. Oldine Bryson Pontiflet, Ms. Clara Reyes, Mr. Jonathan van Arneman, Mr. Rogelio Voges, Dr. Tashina Maku, Inko Sosana Ellis, also by her, let's call it Christian name, Esther Ellis, Dr. Antonio Carmona Baez, and the last to be appointed will be Dr. Napolina Richardson Gomes. We believe these members will be key to get the process moving forward. They've come in contact. We've had our first meeting, and hopefully within short, they can start to finalize the process to move towards an organization that can get the ball rolling. This committee, several persons have, let's say, brought forth their interest to take part, who have not been mentioned here today. Those persons' names will be forwarded or have been forwarded to the committee members, who will then contact them to form subcommittees and to become substitute members as well. So even though we have named 9 names, more persons who have shown interest will be able to play a role moving forward. And also when the stakeholder consultations take place, the panel discussions and other research is going on, you will be contacted to make your contribution in that regard. So look out for the connection that you will be getting or the contact that you will be getting from the committee members. Plastic free. Much has been said, much is being done as well, and it's about time that we get the community involved. So the plastic-free project, single-use plastic-free project, which has been long talked about, finally has funding via the Resembid program, and which will launch on February 21st, 2023. This is via the Ministry of General Affairs with the assistance of the Department of BUC, so I must thank them. This means that the implementation of the project is about to start. This is to address the management of single-use plastic as well as styrofoam to contribute to the protection and preservation of marine biodiversity and life and living on St. Martin. The project aims to bring out institutional change through a situational analysis, through a comprehensive regulatory framework to manage single-use plastic and styrofoam, training of the inspectors to enhance the capacity to enforce the regulations and increase the commitment to the enforcement, engaging the stakeholders during the process to ensure that institutional change, so at the business level, at the school level, at government level, is ingrained into all in the aspects of corporate governance, good governance, and of course, the community at large. It takes each and every one of us. So we expect to see behavioral change and the targeting of and making sure that the sanctions and fines can be implemented and will be implementing. And of course, ensuring that the youth, as we saw during our many science fairs, are playing a role through literature, education, and of course, their promotion themselves. The other points that I would bring across, I will issue via press statement. But I would like to mention, as stated before, in our meeting with the Y2, several responses were required by today, and we are in the process of finalizing those responses, which will be issued to the union today in clarification of the questions as well as concerns that they have brought forward. Indeed, ensuring that the teachers, the education sector is heard and their concerns addressed, as well as all those who carry out services for our people here on St. Martin to ensure the continuity of such is a high priority for St. Martin, and we look forward to our continued collaboration with them and the other stakeholders to ensure progress and forward movement in this area. That's all for now. Did I answer the question? No. There was a question on, election. The concrete changes, yes, as long as they don't require constitutional change, certain changes can still happen before the projected dates for election. Several points have been brought forward, including the proposal of the PFP, and I think it was a bit misconstrued in the press as to that it's a definite that this will happen. For us, it was important to have the stakeholder engagements and to look at the consequences of every proposal that has been brought forth. And it has been somewhat delayed, yes, but we do expect that within short we will get started with those stakeholder engagements and encourage all who are interested to participate.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for answering Judy's question, and also Minister Samuel. Stephen Cerulean of PJD2 Radio, I give you the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Dunker. My question is for the Prime Minister. You outlined the persons that are to serve on the Committee for Slavery Atonement and Reparations. The core tasks have also been underscored as well. What kind of a relationship can we expect to see between this committee and that of the Committee of CARICOM, Prime Minister?
Very good question. The committee that we have set up, again, our goal is for them to become an entity that is established by government that can then have access to funding and research and really delve into the topic so that they can give good advice to government. Already in my discussions, as I mentioned, and I believe you were present, Mr. Dobreen Omard, the vice president or the vice chair of that CARICOM Reparations Committee, continues to be someone that we liaise with as government, and the committee will then get, of course, the same connections, and they have expressed a willingness for us to register that committee with the Reparations Commission of CARICOM as a member. So then they will be able to be taken along and assisted wholeheartedly. So while we are getting the assistance, once we finalize the establishment, then they can apply for membership as well, and that commitment and discourse and collaboration will happen without any interference from government directly, but they will be doing it on behalf of government.
All right, thank you, Stephen Cerulean. Thank you, Prime Minister. For our final round of questions, Ms. Bibi Hadshaw, you have the floor.
Thank you, Charity. My question is to the Minister of Education. Minister, can you give me a little bit of explanation on outline a little bit the policy on study financing, especially the part where students that have to repay the loan plus interest that return after the 6-month period that is given? And is this done general overall, or, Minister, this has to be done when a decree is made by you on a case-by-case basis?
Thank you, Bibi, for the question. Indeed, in order to obtain study financing, eventually the Minister of Education signs a decree giving the study financing, and the student goes out to study. And when the student is completed with their studies, they are then to return home. Persons can opt not to return home. However, the ordinance indicate that after a certain period of time, if you're not inscribed in the institution anymore as a school or university or whatever, and you have not returned home, then a decision would have to be made. The decision is then, and it is also after the period of the study, because the study also have a certain amount of time to allot it to it. When a person is returning home after the study, they will have to pay back their scholarship. And a couple of things have to happen. One, if you have to pay back, your ability to pay back is assessed, and then a regulation is made with the person. Every single person is different than the other, so everyone's situation is also different. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Can I
Anishira
ask a
Samuel.
follow-up on this? Because I didn't get my answer.
It will have to be real quick, baby.
Yes. Have you made any decrees recently with students that returned to pay back the loan?
in order to stop the scholarship, a decree have to be made by the minister. So I am the one who give the scholarship, and I am the one who will say, listen, you have completed your study financing is hereby closed off.
All right.
And I would like to indicate to you, if there are any issues in regards to this topic, you can please send me in writing what it is, and I would look into it. Because I know there can be controversies in regards to when a student finished, when a student didn't finish, and the paying back of the scholarship. It is very, very diverse, and for every single person, it is different. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister Samuel. Thank you, Bibi. Reminder for the members of the media, as we're pressed for time, I'd like to encourage all questions to be short and concise, please. Mr. Lyndon Brown of BCN TV, you have the floor.
Question to the Prime Minister. Yes, Prime Minister, as civil servant come to view, Minister, oftentimes civil servants feel discriminated and they are working in pain, Minister. Is there any avenue, a platform, where civil servants can speak about their grievances without consequences? They want to speak a lot of time, Prime Minister, but they are fearful of the consequences.
Thank you for your concern for our civil servants, as I think the statement I made in my opening statements about the survey currently being done. That is a platform. It's a confidential platform. No names are requested. Any concerns that are existing within the civil service, within any individual civil servant, this is the opportunity for them to do so. The government has also a confidential advisor platform that had been devised. For some reason, it did not go out. And so it is my goal to finalize that process to ensure that within each ministry, there is a confidential advisor to whom any civil servant with a concern or complaint can go as well. This was something that had been advised before, was in place before, but somehow or the other, with persons moving in and out of government, not all ministries have confidential advisors anymore. It was part of a trajectory of the Integrity Bureau way back, the Integrity Bureau that was existing within government way back in like 10 years ago. So some of them have changed in the meantime or left, and so the process is ongoing to ascertain the interest of persons willing to be confidential advisors, after which they will receive the necessary training, and then civil servants will then be able to, they will be identified within the ministry, and civil servants will know the process by which that they can make complaints or bring things to the attention that needs to be dealt with, that cannot go via the regular, for some reason they feel cannot go via the regular route, which would be, first of all, you go through your department head, then to your SG, and then on to the minister. So in any case, anyone that feels that they have not been treated fairly also have that option. There should be no fear of reprisal.
Thank you, Prime Minister, and thank you, Lyndon. Ms. Judy Fitzpatrick of the Daily Herald, you have the floor.
Thank you so much again. And my final clarification for you, Minister Samuel, can you give a quick timeline of the finalization of the special needs education policy? And for educators who are going through challenges right now with the situation I described earlier, and they do need an assistant for more than twice a week, what can they do? What can the school do to get help in the interim? Because it's a situation where, like, you're preparing the vegetables and the pot is boiling over. And my question, Prime Minister, you mentioned, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, that changes are coming to the budget and government will do what it needs to do in order to obtain the revenue it needs to execute its tasks. Can you give us an indication as to what those changes are? What new revenue streams? Yeah, 2 weeks ago you mentioned that. What new potential revenue streams we can expect in the budget, so we're not surprised? Thank you so very much.
Thank you. I do believe the Minister of Finance had some discussions in Parliament, whether it was last week or the week before, where he updated on different types of taxing that we're looking at, tax reform. He gave a extreme explanation on that. But when we discussed bringing up revenue for existing legislation that's there, it's areas where collection has been low. So areas where permits and the likes are concerned. So a task force is already in place. I believe they're working with the Ministry of Romy to generate the funds that have been outstanding for some time. And within the various ministries where permits, fees, etc., have been required over the years, and whether it's for land, whether it's for other areas, also businesses that have not lived up to their obligations, that there will be more enforcement of that. So there are different task forces busy. So for me, it would be an encouragement to the population, if you know that you have an outstanding with government, to come in and make payment arrangements before a task force contacts you. In certain cases, there's a discussion on whether government owes or you owe. So put in your what's the bizarre? You put in your complaint against maybe your assessment, and do not just stay away from responding to these things. I understand that other ministries, so the Minister of Finance is spearheading, let's say, a task force of all the ministries to ensure that all is being done with all heads pointed in the same direction to ensure proper collection and raising of the compliance is there right now. Where it pertains to budget for this year, if legislation is needed to increase the revenue, that will take time and not be in our current budget. But there are things in process in different stages of development, and I believe the Minister of Finance will be better equipped to give a more detailed answer, and I will ask him to do so. But suffice it to say that the outstandings that have been on the books for a while, that is the part of financial management that we have to improve on so that we are able to stand on our own feet today. And then for the future, generating new revenue, of course, is always something to ensure we get in the black and stay there so that we can build up the reserves we need so that we never have to be in a position to have to ask if a disaster hits or so on. And we're also working on building a disaster risk fund as well. So to be able to build a fund that would assist us in times of disasters.
Minister ECYS.
Thank you. And thank you, Judy, for the question. Your question was if I can indicate when the policy on special needs would be completed?
Yes, correct. And also, what can teachers who are
Do.
encountering? Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you so much.
I usually don't give dates because if something comes up, then I will be told, and you see, you give a date and it did not happen. And so I will inform you that it will be done shortly because I have seen communication in that direction. In regards to teachers, classroom teachers who feel the need of having a classroom assistant, the first thing that they should do is go via the management. So if you go via the management, and then the management will go towards the school board from which that teacher is working, and the determining of whether or not a classroom assistant is needed will then be handled. So make the request via the management, via the school board, and then that will happen.
Thank you, Dr. Anders Urao Samuel. Also, thank you, Prime Minister, for that. Due to time constraints, we'll proceed with Stephen Cerillion of PJD2. You have the floor for our last question.
Thank you, Ms. Denker. My question is for the Prime Minister, if I may piggyback on the electoral reform question of my colleague, Prime Minister. It has been touted a possible increase in the number of persons that will be at least voted to Parliament in the next election. There will be an increase based on information. Are you able to say as to exactly what the electoral population of St. Martin is at this time? And please elaborate a bit more on the possible increase of members of Parliament.
Thank you for that question, Mr. Cerillion. Indeed, The civil registry is currently undergoing the cleanup of the registry, so I wouldn't be able to give you the numbers offhand. But hopefully, as soon as that is done, the staff is doing, we actually have a project in place for that, so they're putting in a lot of extra hours. I think a couple of weeks ago, you heard me commend them, so let me commend them again, because we happened to be leaving the building at the same time, and I was surprised to see my workers that late, even though I signed off on the advice. But thank you to them that they are doing that extra work so that we can get an accurate count. Once we have the accurate count, there is a threshold for the 15 members. Once the threshold for the next level is there, then that will be increased. But the prerequisite for that is that we actually last 4 years. So if there is a snap election, it will remain 15. Is that clear?
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, and also thank you, Stephen, for your question. I would like to thank the members of the media for joining us and being a part of the Live Council Ministers press briefing for today. And also, I'd like to remind you, if you have any further questions, be sure to direct those questions to the Honorable Minister's Cabinet. Honorable Ministers of the Council, members of the media, radio listeners, online viewers, and TV Plus viewers, thank you very much for tuning in and being a part of our broadcast for today, Wednesday, February 15, 2023. For rebroadcast, be sure to tune in to St. Martin Gov Radio 107.9 FM, Telemstel TV Plus for video on demand, also the official Facebook page, Government of St. Martin, and YouTube channel, Government of St. Martin. On behalf of the Department of Communication, I'm Charity Dunker, and I'm bidding you a pleasant day further.